Today, I'm going to talk about a bit of an esoteric subject, but it's something that I've been thinking about a lot lately. And I think that it kind of can relate to hair loss as well. And especially having a hair transplant, picking surgeons, picking drugs, and all that sort of thing. And that topic is this, as the title says, adding avocado. And so I remember I watched a friend of mine, I posted on Instagram, and he said, I don't I don't want to be rich. I just want to be rich enough that every time I'm at the sandwich shop and they say, "Would you like to add avocado?" I feel confident in saying yes. And that made me laugh. So he said, "I just want to be add avocado rich." And that's that relates back to a TED Talk that I watched a few years ago that I've thought of countless times since then. And I know this information, and yet I never act on it. And that was kind of the point of the TED Talk a little bit. And so that TED Talk was about the concept of money or of numbers and how we as humans relate to these numbers. And we relate to numbers very, very illogically. And even very numbers-oriented people, which I feel like I'm more of a numbers kind of oriented person and saving and investment oriented person. And yet I don't relate to transactions and the numbers within transactions very logically at all. So what I mean is, let's say you're going to go buy, like you're going to sell a house. Let's say you're going to sell a house, and the house, you're selling it for $100,000, right? And that's what you feel it's worth. You feel it's worth $100,000. And then someone comes in and they offer you $99,000. Most of us would go, okay, cool, $99,000. I feel it's worth $100,000. All right, well, $99,000 is really close. That's pretty close to full price offer. I'll take that, $99,000. That sounds pretty good. That's how most of us think, right? That's how I think. But if you're selling, let's say you're selling on Facebook a charger for a phone, and this charger typically sells new for like $30. And you put it up, you're like, okay, well, it's used, so I'm going to put it up there for $20. So it's up there for $20. And someone comes and offers you $10, right? You're going to go, oh, well, that's too far off. You know, the charger's worth $20. I'm not going to take $10 for it. That's not right. And so you might go back and go, okay, well, I'll take $18 for it. And they'll come back and go, okay, well, I'll pay you $13. And then you go, okay, well, I'm not going to sell it to you unless you give me $14. And here we are sort of haggling back and forth for like a, you know, for basically what comes down to pennies. Like no significance in our lives, right? Very little significance in our lives. We're 10 years from now, even a year from now, even a week from now, it won't matter whether we made an extra $2 in this transaction or not. And yet, this seems like an important thing to haggle over. Or if we're at least for me, maybe you guys can relate, or if we're at the sandwich shop looking at the sandwich and going, okay, I like avocado, but it's an extra $1.50 for me to add avocado. That just seems like a step that's sort of not worth taking. Like it's like, I don't know if I want to spend like that extra money. And I've really worked hard to try and get over this, but it's not easy at all. Maybe it's just for me. Let me know, guys, if this is for you too. But that's very difficult. Yet, taking $1,000 less on like something like selling a house seems very easy. Yet that $1.50, I would have to literally go to the sandwich shop and have 700 sandwiches with avocado to make up for the difference of just taking $1,000 less, you know, on that transaction for something bigger like a house. So the TED Talk basically explained in a more scientific sort of way why humans, once it gets above a certain sort of number threshold, our brains can't really process these larger numbers and sort of the importance within our lives or lack of importance of these numbers. And so we we sort of see the larger numbers and the difference between the numbers as being like the significant things. So like 100,000 to 99,000 doesn't seem like a significant difference, but you know, 30 or $20 to $10 is like half the difference. So it seems like a more significant difference. So I want to kind of challenge you to try that in your life to like notice this. And it's something that I've tried doing. So if I'm selling something like something not that expensive, let's say like $100 microphone, you know, lately, if people make me an offer on it, like if it's a insignificant amount of money, you know, like let's say they want to only pay me $50 for the microphone, I've just gone like, yeah, sure, go ahead, $50, like take it, just because I'm like at the point now that I'm like, unless it's a more significant kind of dollar amount, which I would say for me, that's probably like, unless it's like $1,000 or more differences off the top of my head, where it seems like $1,000 is like more like significant. Like I don't know. There's some significance to $1,000, but like if it's literally over the difference of like $1 to $50, I've kind of just gone these days. Just I try to like not even base any decisions I do off of what the number is if it's less than like a $50 number, if that makes sense. So yeah. So let's talk about how this could relate to hair and hair transplants and hair loss. And by the way, if you guys have any questions, I haven't gotten any questions yet. If you have any questions, feel free, as always, to shoot them up here and I will answer your question as best I can. But I think this concept stems in our lives. It like stems into everything that we do. And it stems to, you know, a lot of the hair transplant and hair loss industry is like based around money, right? Like what's the number one thing that most of us, oh, that's so cool. I just got a text message and it's from a friend of mine, and he just said that he saw, my brother owns a t-shirt company called Vestige Brand, and they're really popular. Sorry, this is totally off subject, but I just got this text message from a friend, and he said he just saw, we were literally just talking about Vestige Brand like, and I was telling him, oh, my brother owns this t-shirt, their shirts, and Brad Paisley and the Backstreet Boys and Savage Garden and Third Eye Blind and like all these different, you know, large, huge celebrities and stuff like that. Jim Carrey being the most. It's crazy. Like there's tons of pictures, red carpet pictures of Jim Carrey wearing Vestige Brand, him at home lounging in Vestige Brand. Like he loves my brother's t-shirt company. So yeah, and then my friend just texted me and he said he saw some actor on a TV show like an hour after we talked about Vestige Brand. He's like, he's wearing Vestige Brand on that t-show. So anyway, if you guys haven't checked out Vestige Brand, vestigebrand.com, that's my brother's t-shirt company. They probably have the coolest graphic tees on the planet. And yeah, they're super, super cool. If you ever see me in a cool graphic tee, it's Vestige Brand. All right, so back to hair loss and hair transplants. So a lot of our decisions are based off of money. And that's part of the reason, or one reason, why I like to talk about the subject of money. One, it's fascinating to me because it's something I feel like I deal with a lot in my life. Is growing up kind of poor, it's something that's sort of constantly on my mind, for better or worse. And I've said before that I wish that I had not based my first hair transplant and the doctor that I chose off of money. I was definitely trying to save money by going to the surgeon that I did go to, which I then later regretted. And I should have gone to the more well-known surgeon, who I think would have cost me, I think like $5,000 more, would have been about $5,000 more per surgery. if I would have gone to that surgeon, the more well-known surgeon, and I think that they would have done a better job. So here I am, you know, all these years later, and would that $5,000 in my life have made any difference? Really? No, it wouldn't have. I would not be living any differently if I just spent $5,000 more and gone to the more well-known, well-respected surgeon, and I would have had a better job done. But that thing gets into my mind, you know? Instead of me, it's thinking about, you know, well, at the time I didn't know that much about surgeries and that much anyway. But that's gonna be not nice. All right, I don't know what's going on here, guys. I might have to get off if this keeps acting up. Yeah, especially knowing what I know now. Now I really look at hair transplants as being very surgical, as being surgeries, you know, and the same way I try to look at every surgery now as being almost like a life and death kind of situation. Even though very few people die of hair transplants, still every surgery comes with risks. So my daughter is actually about to go into surgery here in a couple of months, and it's a very routine surgery, and yet still she's going to go under anesthesia, and people die going under anesthesia, especially young people. So yeah, it's some scary stuff, and I think there's no reason to skimp out on that. Now, again, this is based on where you're at in your life too. Now, if $5,000 is going to completely like devastate your life, then you're in kind of a different position, you know? But for me at that time, the difference of $5,000 was, I don't know, what was it? I was probably, my net worth at that time was like $300,000 or something like that. So little over 1% of my net worth or something like that. So, and I didn't have any children or anything. But yet I still have $5,000. So the internet keeps like wanting to go out. See if I can like take this out of my phone's in a little in a case, so that might be messing it up. Yeah, I think it's getting really hot. Okay, so that what was I saying? Yeah, so I looked at that, you know, $12,000, $17,000. I thought that's a huge difference. I should base my decision off of this difference, and I shouldn't have been looking at it that way. I should have been looking at go to a great surgeon who's more well known and more well respected, and definitely one of the top surgeons in the world, or go to this other surgeon who's like not nearly as well known. He seems to do good work, but you know, it's sort of a cheaper option that still seems okay. But anyway, these are the things we learned. All right, so I'm gonna answer some of you guys' questions before I jump off. Hopefully some of this was interesting to you. Travis says, what's your opinion on finasteride supposedly losing efficacy long-term? So Travis, this is really interesting. I've heard a lot of different anecdotal things about this, but I just watched Rolandis's recent video. My friend Rolandis, he's got a video on the efficacy of finasteride long-term. And the studies that he showed on his video said that basically, and this is one of the things we talk about on this channel, that the sooner you start finasteride, the less it loses efficacy long-term. So if you're already like Norwood 5 or 6, then it's pretty effective still long-term, but you're not going to continue seeing like better and better results over like a long period of time. You're going to you should, from what they saw in this study, I think if you're like Norwood 6 or so, you're going to improve for like a year and then pretty much just level off. But what was kind of crazy from the study is if, say, you're like a Norwood 2 or so, then you'll actually continue, you should continue, or a lot of people in this study were seeing better. All right, so I'm out here. It's a little cooler. All right. Oh, it's loud in here. All right, I'll answer a couple questions and I'll get off because I think it was not working because the car is so hot. All right. So journey. Journey Destination said, have you ever thought about getting micropigmentation done on the scars? Yeah, I totally have. I've gotten micropigmentation done on the scars before, but the thing is, I found that the micropigmentation kind of disappeared after a little while. So like now it's pretty much all disappeared. So the micropigmentation definitely looks good. Like it helps cover up the scar a lot. So I think it's definitely an option, but it's something where you're gonna have to keep going back every few years to get the micropigmentation done. It's not a one and done kind of thing. Nukri says, what can you say about using oral sal palmetto instead of finasteride? I would definitely not suggest using oral sal palmetto instead of finasteride. Yeah, I would not suggest it. I would say stick to finasteride. Oral sal palmetto, from everything that I've taken it before, I used to take it, and just from people I've talked to and my own experience, it wasn't nearly as good. Journey and Destination said finasteride can lose its potency, or can finasteride lose its potency? I kind of talked about that a little bit earlier. Nukri said, is that a good idea to have a hair transplant but using only minoxidil, PRP, and mesotherapy, and not using finasteride? And what do you think about PRP and mesotherapy? PRP I have a little bit more experience with. Mesotherapy I don't have much experience with. I've just anecdotally talked to a couple of people about it. I think whether you having a hair transplant and using only minoxidil and PRP and mesotherapy, it really depends on where you're at with your hair transplant and how much hair loss you have and your age. So if you're young and have lots of hair loss, and I would say if I was you, I'd probably try topical dutasteride. Yeah, topical dutasteride instead, so you can have something that's killing the DHT. That would be my suggestion. All right, Lewis says, non-hair related question, which I love. Just for something different, how did this YouTube channel and being a music superstar affect your life? How did this YouTube channel, I'm not exactly sure what you mean by this YouTube channel as far as how it affected my life. Being a musician, well, so the thing is, I'm not a music superstar in the United States, for sure, as you guys know. In the Philippines, I am pretty well known. Like, most Filipinos know me or have heard my music or seen my music videos. So there, I'm much more close to the music superstar sort of status. And if I walk down the street, people will stop me on every street and go, hey, David Musio, let's get a picture, and this sort of thing. So yeah, it's really cool. It's cool to have experienced that, being well-known musician in an area. I think it's I kind of enjoy, I think I would like to be famous in the United States as a musician, just because I would like my music to be known, not because I want the fame of it. But it's also kind of cool experiencing being famous somewhere and being able to go here and just walk around and do whatever and nobody knows me. And I kind of like that too. So for me, I guess I just see it all as like, as just an experience, you know, as this sort of experience of life. And if I get more famous, I'll deal with that and experience whatever that's like. But it definitely hasn't really affected me internally much. It's just been more of like a learning experience, I feel like. Having this YouTube channel, the hair loss YouTube channel, has been really cool because I do run into guys about once a week to every couple of weeks, just out and about, you know, wherever I am, in Nashville and airports, wherever. And they'll stop me and tell me that I really had a positive effect on them, and like they'll show me their hair that they got done, and they'll be like, hey, look how good it looks, and this is because you inspired me, I watched your videos. And so that's really cool. I love that. I love being able to like positively affect people in such a deep way. Why can't you recommend sal palmetto? Because it just doesn't seem to be very effective. That's why. I never had PRP done. He's asking how effective was PRP for you. I've never had PRP done, so I can't give you a scale on how effective it is. All right, guys. Well, my caffeine is kicking in, which means, see, I'm at Starbucks here. So I was just waiting for the caffeine to kick in. I'm going to hit the gym here. Boom. So, yeah, I'll see you guys soon.